Oh, good evening, everybody. It's Danny Oates, King's Chambers here. If you're watching this as it goes out, then good evening. If you're watching it maybe on a morning or even on an afternoon on demand, then you are most welcome here as well. This is the Christmas King's Chambers Piano Room Conversation Series Special. So all the way through to December, we're going to be dropping these new pieces of content with new guests, new music, new everything. And as you can see, I've got that side, I've got Santa in the back with some fairy lights. Those that know me know I absolutely adore a set of fairy lights. Coloured, not white. It's got to be coloured. And I might ask my guest that later on which kind of light she prefers, and it better be coloured lights. That's all I'm going to say. So this is such a great time where we're going to speak to worship leaders, we speak to pastors, we speak to fathers, mothers, we speak to a whole host of people that are involved in some kind of ministry. And we just chat life, we chat family, we chat faith and all that good stuff. So what I want you to do is for you to go have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, grab a slice of cake, whatever you need to do. If you're watching this on demand, you can pause, do a cheeky pause, go grab your drink and come back. But we're going to go enter into the piano room. My guest this week is the amazing Ruth Clarke, and we're going to interview her right now. So let's go in and say hello. And we're in this space. How are you?
Hello.
Are you doing well? I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Really, really good. I haven't got any Christmas lights up yet, though. But yeah, I'm not like.
Well, I mean, that's
not
got
like
to be.
you.
It's got to be the first question then. So, are you going to be Team Danny with coloured lights? Are you going to be, I suppose, Team Katie, my wife, who insists on white lights?
Yeah, Team Katie, but like it's got to be cool white, like warm white lights. I've actually got warm fairy lights in my house anyway, because we have them under the window, so it looks really nice. So yeah, I'm a warm. I do like. I must admit, outside we have all the colourful lights for the kids where we do the front of the house up, and yeah, it's like my husband goes a bit mad with all the coloured lights, but in the house I do like warm white lights. So yeah, sorry.
Look at that.
You should have given me a tenner before the interview and I would have said coloured.
That has got to be the way to go. And actually, you know, that Santa that you can see there, which is really cool. There was a lady at church that actually knitted that. And she was raising funds for, I can't remember who it was she was raising funds for, but she did loads of knitted things. And we just saw that Santa. It was about 2 years ago. We said, we're going to have that. So every year, well, I say every year because it's only 2 years, but every year from now, that Santa is definitely going to be pride and place.
Lovely.
It's lovely. And exceptional quality as well. That's the main thing.
Beautiful. It's all about the quality.
So you are our first amazing guest in this first Christmas spectacular.
Yeah, I feel privileged. Thank you.
Oh no, you are most welcome. I mean, one of the things that I was trying to think back, and this is really, 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 really bad. But it feels like we go way back, and it feels like we've known each other for a while, but we've never actually been in the same space. And I'm trying to get my head. I can't. I was trying to think what the first connection was.
I'm sorry. I think was it? I wanted you to come and lead worship with me. Was it at the tent, the first tent, on Keys? But you're so in demand, Danny. It's always no.
Well, it's not always no.
I'm fully booked.
Well, I tell you what, so it does genuinely feel like we go way back, and I think 2023 we definitely have to get in the same space together, and do something
Definitely.
together. And
Yeah.
I think we should need to make that happen.
Yeah.
But it's Christmas. It's time of new beginnings. It's time of birth. So let's go all the way back to little Ruthie. Give us a kind of a lowdown. Where did little Ruthie come from?
Little Ruthie has to try not to waffle because I'm really, really bad at waffling. So I'm going to try and give you the quick version. So yeah, I was originally born in, this will shock you because everyone thinks I'm originally from Liverpool, but I actually was born in Nuneaton in the Midlands. So
No.
I lived in Coventry to the age of 15, 14
Oh,
actually,
can you
sorry.
just stop there?
Yeah,
Coventry. Did you know I come from Coventry?
that's where we first met then. Was we in the same school?
I was at Bars
Blue
Hill.
Coat. I went to Blue Coat. That's
Bars
how
Hill,
you
and
know.
what was Short Street Church, Short Street Pentecostal Assemblies of God Church. That's where I grew up.
Oh
Anyway, carry
wow,
on. We can digress about that later, but carry on. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, so I was born in the born in Nuneaton. Four brothers and one sister, so one of six. Got brought up in a Christian home. Really, really blessed by that. And so when I was at the age of 14, my mum and dad felt called to Liverpool to help with the church. So yeah, so my transition coming up to Liverpool was we got sent to youth camp. We got the youth camp from the Liverpool church, picked us up in Coventry on the way down. And then I arrived back in Liverpool, and that's how I got to Liverpool. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm but really blessed to be brought up in a Christian home, which has been a real blessing. But obviously, just knowing God for myself when I was in, when I went to that youth camp is when I really connected with the Lord. But yeah, so I was the baby of the family, the one that used to just look at my dad and winkle my eyes and get what I wanted. But no, is but yeah, no, yeah, so that's where I'm from. And then I've been living in obviously Liverpool for majority of my life, really more so. And now I am based in Warrington, which is just outside of Liverpool, where we are based obviously in a church, and there's part of a church plant there, and so we've now got 5 churches in Warrington, all in different areas of Warrington, and yeah, Life Church Warrington. So yeah, I've been everywhere.
Amazing. So,
Yeah,
what was? I mean, obviously you mentioned Blue Coat. Was that a girls'
yeah.
school? No,
No,
it
it
wasn't.
was
No,
boys and girls.
it was
Yeah.
boys and girls. So, talk about that time then. So,
Mm.
what was that like? Because you were in a Christian family,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And if it was anything like me, for a certain period, I was what I'd call a stealth churchgoer. That nobody knew and nobody was going to, especially because my mum and dad were quite kind of like in leadership positions and things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
when I was at school, I mean, there's a whole backstory to it. But I'm just
Mhm.
intrigued. What was your experience of coming from a Christian home and being in school, and were you able
Yeah,
to live out, or were you, all those kind of
yeah,
things?
yeah. It's part of my testimony, really. God's been so good to me, really. Yeah, I obviously got brought up in a Christian home, and obviously there's a lot of pressures that come with that. People, that what people put on you, really. But God always had His hand on me, and in school there was so much that used to go on around me. There was temptations, there was all my friends were up to all kinds, and God just really had His hand on me, and there were so many opportunities I could have gone off the rails, and every time there was those opportunities, I literally felt God's voice just say no. Like literally, I felt God's hand upon me, and He really kept me through all those years. And I think it's just my mum had a word when I was younger that she really prayed that God would protect me and that I wouldn't experience a lot of heartache that a lot of people experience, and regrets. And she always prayed that God would keep His hand upon me. She also felt God say that I was going to be a worshipper. And yeah, she just prayed for me. And she also, God told my mum that I was going to get married very young. which was a bit of a shock. And I got married when I was 18. I've been married 25 years nearly. So,
Wow.
it's been it was a real God thing. So I think God just really kept me in those critical years. And it doesn't mean that I was not exposed to those things. Um, school was tough. It really, really was. I actually had quite a tough time through school. Even though God kept me, I used to get bullied quite a lot. And I wasn't the popular kid, should we say? I was the nerd, really. I had a lot of friends, but God just, I can't expect, like now I look back and I see God's hand just completely just wrapped me. And it's like he had me in his palm of his hand. And I look at all the things I was exposed to, like all my mates were finding different boyfriends. And I just literally just yeah, just kept myself pure and all that really. And I just thank God for that really, because it was a real God thing. And
Well
that's
done.
part of my testimony. I never used to think I had a testimony. And then my husband went, "You've got a testimony. God kept you. He protected you. Like you don't need all the baggage for the testimony, God's goodness." And so yeah, I really believe like the power of prayer. My parents really kept me safe, really. But yeah, it's just
I
now
mean,
I'm a bit of a rebel. Now I'm older. It's like I'm getting all out my system, and I'm like,
but I think it's amazing. My mum was a praying mum as well, and thank God for praying mums, eh? Uh,
oh,
we
amen.
we
Yeah,
think they don't know anything, but they know more than we think they know. And I certainly,
they
I can
do.
certainly mirror that with Kate and our kids as well. Mums are ace, especially when they're praying mums. And um, interestingly, when did you start to find a voice then? So, I mean, because you are, I mean, and I'm not kind of buttering you, but you are one of those what I call powerhouse voices, and
Oh,
they don't just happen. They obviously,
oh,
you grow into that, don't they? So, when was the
yeah.
first time, and was the first finding of your voice linked to, um, that journey of worship, or was it just in the first instance? Oh yeah, got a voice, I'm going to sing.
No, yeah, it was a real journey for me. My mum always felt God say to her that I was going to be a worshipper because I used to listen to Darlene Check shout to the Lord all the time, and
Oh
I used to be
yes.
shout to the Lord. And even now when I sing that song, it gets something in my heart because it really that's where I really had an encounter with God and how I really become to love. I used to love listening to that song, and my mum used to say to me, one day, Ruth, God's told me, you're gonna sing darling, you're gonna sing that song. And I was like, yeah, mum, thinking. But yeah, I was actually very insecure to sing. Actually, it's even through all the years, like I started being in the youth band at church. That's how I met my husband. He was the drummer. So I actually started being in the band because I thought Pete was he's safe on the drums. But anyway, I just had a heart for worship, and I just something grew in me, and I didn't have the best voice. I didn't have the confidence to sing, and I just had a real heart. And through as I grew and as obviously transitioned into Liverpool and stuff, I just started to sing out to God. And then as I got married, obviously me and my husband was part of a worship team. And worship was a big part of who we were in our marriage. Like we used to, be part of worship teams, and he used to drum, and that's what we used to do. And it was 7 years before we had children, but we used to just literally just worship all the time. And it's through that God just really spoke to me, and my voice started to get a little bit better, a little bit stronger. But I would say it's only been in the last probably few years that I've actually probably really grew in who God has called me to be, because I've
Okay.
literally just God has been speaking to me, like even years ago being at a conference and being approached to record, and I was like, I declined it for 4 years because I didn't feel I had it in me to do it. And it was a real, oh, but it's just been, and through that, I struggled with it because I just love worship and the recording side was always a challenge to me. But through, I don't know, I just started getting asked to go places. And it was really, I went over to, I used to sing obviously in worship teams, but didn't really think I had anything really, I don't know, like that real call on my life for that.
Right.
I just love singing but there was nothing powerful. There was like, I just could sing, it was, but I love God, I love Jesus. And it was, I basically, after I had my first son, I nearly died. I had a severe hemorrhage and, it left me with multiple, health problems. And through that, worship's the only thing that got me through that. And that's where it was like me and God worship. And that's where I really discovered about what it was to really worship God in those times. And that's where I really grew as a worshiper, I think, because there were some days I couldn't even lift my hands up. I had lupus, loads of health problems going on. And that used to just be me when I was lying in bed, just me and God. And that's how God said, I've put a call on your life, to sing in the battlefield, to sing in the storms, and you're going to lead people into, my presence. And with it, how you lead worship. And I was going to, we went down to, I'm trying to think, again, all in order. I should have wrote notes to keep me on track. But yeah, so that was that. And then I started getting invited places. I was part of a band that used to travel. And then we laid that down. And I remember as we laid it down, it really broke my heart. And I remember thinking, God, I knew you put this dream on my heart, because I went to a Jesus Culture concert in London with the team that we were all worshipping, and we loved Jesus Culture because we used to do a lot of their songs and stuff. And I remember looking down. It's where I had a real encounter with God, where He said to me, "You're going to be, I've got a calling on your life." And I remember him Walking Smith singing "You Won't Relent." I don't know if you know the song. You won't relent until you have it all.
Okay,
My heart
yeah,
is
yeah,
yours.
rings a
Yeah,
bell.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she started singing that song, and I remember just it was just me and God. And I remember just like putting my hands in the air, and I was crying like a baby for like an hour, like just as they kept worshiping. And I seen all these thousands of hands with silhouettes on the stage, and God said, "I'm going to use you in worship."
Wow.
To I felt God say, "Put a call on your life for in worship. Strongholds are going to be broken and chains are break. That sort of thing." And I was like, God, and it was like such an encounter with God, and I will never forget it. And that's where I knew that God had put something. From that moment, my voice I started to the
Wow.
confidence came with who I knew what God had put on my life. And at the time, I seen that as with the team. I never ever seen it as me doing it as a ministry. And so when we laid that band down, I was heartbroken. I remember saying, God, I know what you spoke to me at that time. I know what you
Mm.
spoke to me. Like, how am I going to do this? I don't play an instrument. But so I started going to serving and such, traveling all the way to Bournemouth, like from Liverpool for the smallest things. But I remember God saying, you can sing for an audience of one, me, keep your heart. And I just served whatever I was
Absolutely.
invited to serve. And I just really grew in that. And I remember I went to CFNI Worship School in Dallas for actually to promote a gap year for Youth for Christ with where I work now. And over there, I bumped into a lady called Mags. There was an auditorium with 1,200 people. And I got to sit next to this lady, and she said, "Hey, let's go for coffee and cake." Didn't know each other. We went. It was just one of those divine appointments. And she said, "I've got a conference in the UK in a couple of months. Will you lead worship for us?" And I was like, "Who it?"
Yeah.
You don't even know me, but it was a God thing. And
Come on.
anyway, I ended up doing that. That's how I met the record label. And that's how all that started. And it was a real God moment. And from that point, I just grew as a worship leader. And I
Wow.
think that's how my voice developed, and just basically just keeping my heart right, and just there's certain things I didn't feel to go to. And God, through that, God is just he's just equipping me, and he's equipping me, and
Awesome.
you know, it's. So I've got really round the trees there, saying what I said,
It's
but
fine.
yeah,
I mean, it's all gold in
yeah,
the contents
it's
there,
just
and people are going to get loads from it. I tell you what, let's take a few moments. We're going to listen to. We established Psalm 23,
oh,
and this is Ruth singing Psalm 23, and I think it's originally, is it People and Song originally?
I
That
haven't got a clue. We recorded it with a Big Push, which is a ministry in Liverpool. So yeah, we did it through
yeah.
lockdown, in the middle of lockdown. Yeah.
We'll have a listen to this, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about a bit of the big push and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sit back. Here we go.
The Lord is my shepherd. He goes before me. Defender behind me. I won't fear. I'm filled with anointing. My cup's overflowing. No weapon can harm me. I won't fear. Hallelujah, I am not alone. He's my comfort, always hold me close. He always guides me through mountains and valleys. His joy is refreshing, restores my soul. Mercy and goodness, it gives me assurance that I'll see His
And we're back in the piano room. I tell you, that drummer looks really cool.
Yeah, he's really good, Tim. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a very, very, very good drummer.
it's just
So,
that
to be honest, the whole
if I grew it out, I'd have two mohawks, not the one.
he does. He has like Mohicans and everything. It's so funny. But yeah, no, he's a very, very good drummer. Very good. But
Right,
yeah, they're
so
a good team.
before we move on, I think every worship leader whose weight is in gold would be able to know some Christmas lyrics, right? So I'm going to do this with every one of my guests, and
Yeah.
then the person that gets the highest, I will post out a Christmas surprise to them. Okay,
Ooh,
now
come on then, bring it up.
you are the first, so you have to set the thing,
Yeah.
and so you won't know whether you're in the running to win, except that you are to start with this week because you're like the first. So I'm going to give you a lyric, and then I want to see if you can tell me what the actual carol is. And I've got 10 of these bad boys, and look, I'm using
Oh gosh, I'm
the
terrible at
look
this.
at that the songs of I can't get it count the songs of fellowship Christmas
Oh.
cracker.
Do you know
It
what
was.
do you know what I thought you were holding up then? A pack of them Ferry Rocher coconut chocolate.
No.
Do you know the ones that look like they're in a box and they're like that? Oh,
This was a mission worship buy. It was £2 from the bargain bucket about 5 years ago. But I tell you what, it is my Bible for Christmas songs because it's got really obscure, like Steve Curtis Chapman ones in, and then it's got your Silent Night. It's got all those things. Anyway, we digress. So your first lyric is "Wing your flight over all the earth." What carol is that?
do you know what? I'm awful. I don't know. I did carols last year as well, and I don't have a clue. Wing and flight. Can you put like a tune? I mean, you can't put a tune to it, can you?
Well, no, because it wouldn't be lyrics then, would it? It'd be named that tune.
I don't have a little clue. No, I can't.
So this one would be "Angels from the realms of glory, wing your flight over all the earth."
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh.
Right, here we go.
I'm going to lose. I just know I'm going to lose at this. It's not my, yeah.
Stood
Go on.
hard as iron.
Stood hard as iron, is that? No, don't know. Sorry,
Oh.
Danny. You're going to wish you never invited me.
These are all the classic. Well, no, it just say with the postage, that's all. But here we go. We got in the bleak midwinter, frosty wind may blow. Stood hard as iron. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm awful. I am. This is not my strength.
Right. Now, if you don't get this one, you ain't a Christian. Right. So, bright, bright, round, young virgin.
The struggle is real. I can't think. My mind's gone blank.
I tell you what, when I was writing this, I did not think I would floor. It just shows. Do you want to know? Silent night, holy night, all is calm, this is where the lyric starts. Bright, round, young virgin.
Yeah,
See
you
that
added
context?
one line from the end and then put it on the other, didn't you?
No.
Oh no, I can't. No, didn't you go? Oh, it's bright. What did you say? Bright.
I said bright, round, young virgin. I just didn't give you the whole sentence. I gave you it in out of context. Right, your next one. We need to get one at least.
I don't know if I should just give up now. Go on. Let's have a go.
When they are both full grown. Oh my word.
What is wrong with me? Give me a worship song and I'll do it.
The holly and the ivy, when they are all full grown. See, now you're going to stand there on some carol service and go, oh yes, I know all these carols. Oh, it's
Yeah.
Great.
Do you know, I've got a funny story with this. It's so funny. Last year we did the Carols with Compassion recording for with we had to learn all the lyrics because we weren't allowed the TV. And all the way down for 5 hours in the car, and I was like trying to learn these lyrics, and then I couldn't get it. I was like, no, really need to try and learn these lyrics. And then in the end, Noel requested a telly. So so we got us a telly in the end because we were just all getting them wrong. It was terrible. But anyway, I'm awful with lyrics. Even in worship, I know the lyrics, but it's like my little comfort thing when I've got the lyrics in front of me.
Well, as painful as it is to make it fair on all the guests, we're going to have to, we'll race through them. So, the angel of the Lord came down.
I think you just need to give up on me.
While shepherds watch their flocks.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Oh, no, this is awful. This is actually quite embarrassing. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what, we'll do one more then, just to see if you can get it, okay? So,
Race.
above thy deep and dreamless sleep.
There's no one else gonna find it. Oh, I can't do this. It's so hard. I know what song it is, but I can't think what it's called. This is causing me anxiety, this game. Say it again. Say it again. It's coming.
Above thy deep and dreamless sleep. You've got to get one. No, you know, that's a million miles away. It's this.
There's no hope. I need prayer. Maybe I'm not the right person for this Christmas edition. Maybe it should have just been a normal piano edition. Sorry.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. Yeah. Oh, little.
Exactly. Right, so while you sit there in embarrassment, I'm going to just give a few little words here. I've got a CD that's fairly old now. It's called King's Chambers, which is quite remarkable, seeing this whole ministry is called King's Chambers. And you can get that on Spotify or any of the streaming platforms. And actually, as I start to go out this Christmas, through the month of December, I've got a jam-packed tour which you can find on my Facebook page and other outlets. Look for local dates as they arrive. This CD will be physically there as well. Great little Christmas present that you could try and maybe bag yourself. But if you wanted to stream it or download it, those platforms, mainly Spotify, because that's my favourite of them at the moment, because I'm an Android user, not Apple. Go get yourself some tunes there and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about that CD, and it would be awesome. So we're going to go back now to the shamed worship leader, that is Ruth, to continue our. I'm not
on Carol's with this year because. Do you know what it is? It's because I'm learning other songs at the minute because we're recording next week. No, not next week, 2 weeks. And I'm learning the song Adore. Do you know the song Adore?
Adore. Da, 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 da. Is it that one? Da, 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 da. Chris Tomlin one?
Yeah. It's yeah.
You see, you could have done this on me, and I think I might have got somewhere with the lyrics. But there we go. So the big Liverpool push. What is it? And what is it? And give us a lowdown on what that is.
Liverpool Big Push. It's basically we have So I obviously used to help sometimes on a Saturday. These all churches coming together across Liverpool that basically just come together, united, just to worship God, the Word. So I've been a part of their worship team for a couple of years now, mainly there's a few times before lockdown, but mainly through lockdown we started recording worship. So there's a Liverpool Big Push worship YouTube channel that we've recorded about 40 songs on there. So there's a team of us, so we just all come together once a month. And now we're actually all together in person, so we do that. and then it gets obviously released on YouTube. But yeah, we're just a worship team. We just love God. We come together. The word is preached, and yeah, God's really moving there. So I'm a part of that. So I commit to that once a month. I actually missed the last one. I was gutted, really. I missed it. I was down south, but leading worship, it fell on the same day. But so I missed the last one. So that is actually on Saturday. The premiere that. But then, yeah, 10th of December, we're recording the next one for Christmas, and we're doing Christmas songs. So
you better get your head in the game, ain't you?
I'll have to make sure I learn the lyrics.
Oh, well, that sounds. And how long has that been going now, then?
I think they've been going for about 15 years. But obviously, like the records and stuff, that stemmed really from lockdown, because it used to just be met in the but obviously there was a lot of people that we were connecting with in their homes during lockdown. And as you know, lockdown, it just went everything all of a sudden. And like for me, I had to learn how to record, laptop, learning how to use software to record, buying all the gear in, and it was a challenging time, but we had to be really creative with how we just, there's people literally like broken in their homes that's where Psalm 23 song came from. And that's what really blessed me, that song, because at the time there was a lot of us, even, as a team, we were all feeling it. Like, I know as a worshipper, like, a lot of us went from being quite full on in ministry to everything just, church and everything was, quiet for a while, and, and it impacted quite a lot, really. And so we ended up recording the Big Push, and then we just carried on through lockdown, and then obviously the services started getting recorded, and they're still happening now. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So coming out of the dreaded C word period, what was your experience of people coming back to a gathering, or we, like a lot of churches actually, because being in a lot of forums and stuff, we were saying that there was a drag, if you like, or people had just completely decided to stop coming all together. So what was your experience of that kind of church-wise sort of Liverpool side? Does it kind of marry with that, or was it?
Yeah, it was there was definite difference. As obviously we got told we couldn't sing, couldn't we, in churches, and then we had the screens up, and it was horrible, to be honest. It was just really, a part of me was just like, felt like, oh, come on, like, just worship the Lord, take these masks off. But, it was obviously the church that I was a part of, they respected the rules and stuff like that. But it was hard as a worshipper. Like, it was really difficult. We had to really, it was like people had to get their confidence again in church, like just worshiping. And there was a lot of breakthrough that we had to do. It was like walking on treacle some days, and I found it as a worship leader quite tiring. It was very hard, because I just wanted to worship God. I was like, we're all together. And then it was like we could sing as a team because we had these screens, but then people in the congregation weren't allowed to sing. And it was just like, it was really, I found it very, very difficult, because I
had this one weird situation, because we live streamed the service as well, but there was like a cohort, like you say, of people in the congregation there, and of course we're singing along and carrying on, and I'm doing a raise a hallelujah, like this, and everybody's like just like looking at it. And then what's the one lyric you wouldn't want to sing in church when you're not allowed to sing? Sing a little louder, sing a little.
Yeah, but they weren't allowed to sing a little louder.
No.
Really?
But that's the thing. But the interesting headspace I had to think was, well, actually, because it's being live streamed, there's two. And I don't really know where I stood on it, but there was almost like a conversation that says, is the congregation that sat in front of me watching me do a live stream, or are the people watching the live stream watching me lead people? If you see, so it was like a weird kind of paradoxal kind of moment where, as somebody that was leading, how do you facilitate for for both in that, because it's one thing just to have nobody there on a camera and we're talking or we're singing. You kind of get into a rhythm, if you like. But when you're kind of catering for two at once because it's live, it was a really surreal headspace. So when I'm singing a little louder, there could be great Aunt Agnes up on the the fens of Lincolnshire, singing a little heart out, getting louder and louder and louder, while everybody else in the convent, and that's just as legitimate as. So it was a really weird kind of space and time to operate in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was very challenging, especially for me because, like, especially with the recording side, it's like doesn't come natural, and it's quite a struggle, like a bit like, oh, you got like a camera in your face, and it just felt a little bit, oh, I don't like this, but then when we heard the testimonies that were coming back from people in their homes who was receiving, who were too scared to come to church because they had severe health problems, whatever. But they were getting ministered to in the home. We'd have testimonies of kids giving their lives to Jesus during worship at the big push, and in the COVID thing. But it just, like you say, that integration of just getting back into church, there was a real pullback. And even though when the doors eventually opened, there was still I felt like these barriers that we still had to press through. It's like people forgot how to worship. They felt restricted, and it was it took a lot of prayer, really, and a lot of breakthrough and constant encouraging to say, let's worship. We're worshiping God because he's great. Let's pour our heart out to him. And it's like there was a lot of people who were quite heavy. You could see the heaviness on them, and there's with that mental health, people who would normally be okay, but you just seeing the effects of lockdown on them, and just encouraging them to worship was hard. But then you could see when they did, they were like the heaviness lifting off them. So it just made you more encouraged you more just to press in. And I just knew as a worshipper that we just had to keep going, and that something would break. And it did, but it took a while, It was I remember when we went to the tent, we did worship at the tent, and that was probably the first, I think that's when things started lifting and we were able just to free worship. And I just remember people coming in just so hungry because they just felt free, and it was just so refreshing. I remember it just being one of the highlights. It's like something changed, and it was just like that freedom for people to worship, having that safe space where they could just press into God,
Amazing. I mean, thankfully we're kind of, I believe through that kind of period now, and things are kind of opening up a bit now, aren't they? So we're going to take another song from yourself, and then we're going to enter into the last segment of our sort of conversation. But this one is a fresh wind. I mean, is there anything you want to talk about that song and why you originally recorded? I know it's for the push again, but what was the reason for that that song?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very special song. Just just asking God, pour your spirit out. But as we sang that song, there was just some spontaneous worship that came from that, because it was just we're just God, we just need a move of you, pour your spirit out like a fresh wind. I've really felt like after all that, we just need, some of us just need a fresh touch from God. And I think it's so easy to just be stagnant in what we are, and I think just having that song, just God, pour your spirit out fresh, God. You can't keep going on the same juice, it's like you need a fresh touch every day. As soon as my feet hit that floor, I'm like, God, just guide me by your Holy Spirit today, God. Just guide me, God. Fill me afresh. Speak to me, God. And I think this song is very much asking God just to pour his spirit out, and just for Lord, do something fresh within me, just a new, and it's that should be our heart daily. God, we don't want to be the same as we were yesterday. We want something fresh. Keep pouring your spirit. And so it's a beautiful song, and Yeah, I really enjoyed recording this actually. It was I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning I recorded this because the kids were all in the house of a day, but it was just we all recorded it in our different homes and then they brought it together and it's just it's a beautiful song. Sorry, keep
Fantastic.
waffling. You'd be like, shut up.
No, let's have a listen. We'll be back after Fresh Wind. Here we go.
Spirit sound, rushing wind, fire of God, fall within. Holy Ghost, breathe on us, we pray. As we repent, turn from sin, revival embers moldering. Breath of God, fan us into flame. We need a fresh wind, the fragrance of heaven. Pour your spirit out, pour your spirit out. Ooh. For hearts that burn with holy fear, purified with faith and deed, refine us fire, strengthen what remains. So we the church who bear your light, lamp of flame, city bright, king and kingdom come is what we pray. We need a fresh wind, the fragrance of heaven. Pour your spirit out, pour your spirit out. A holy anointing, the power of your presence. Pour your spirit out, 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 pour your spirit out. Let authority prophesy and sing. We can hear the wind blowing, blowing, blowing. Move upon our praise. Sons and daughters sing. We can hear the wind blowing, blowing, blowing. Let all the redeemed prophesy and sing. We can hear the wind blowing, blowing, blowing. Move upon our praise. Sons and daughters sing. We can hear the wind blowing, blowing. We need a fresh wind, the fragrance of heaven. Pour your spirit out, pour your spirit out. A holy anointing, the power of your presence. Pour your spirit out, 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 God. Overflow in our hearts, oh God. We want more Holy Spirit, pour it out, Lord. Pour it out, God. Pour it out, pour it out. Pour it out, pour it out. Pour it out, pour it out. Transform my heart, transform my mind. Pour it out, overflowing our hearts. Oh, pour it out, pour it out. Oh, Lord, 'cause we want more of you, and less of us, and more of you, Lord. Only you can transform us, God. Pour your spirit, pour your spirit. We want to move, Lord.
Ha! Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, I'm burning it to ride and one of those open. Hey, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, I'm burning it to ride and one of those open sleigh. Oh,
You play guitar.
you what? Sorry.
I know you play guitar as well.
Oh well, we say play guitar. I can strum a few chords and maybe lead from it, but I wouldn't say I'm a guitarist. I'm a keyboard player really, but
You never jingle bells. It sounded good.
I shall take the compliment most definitely. So all those couple of videos that we've just seen from yourselves, they can be accessed on the Big Push Liverpool YouTube page?
Liverpool Big Push Worship. Yeah, I think it's called Liverpool Big Push Worship. Yeah, if you do that, you can find it on there. I've also got a link on my Instagram as well, so it's on the bottom of the bio. So it's on there as well.
Do you know what your Instagram handle is?
At Ruth Clarke Worship. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Ruth Clarke Worship. Go check that out and find all things out about Ruth. So this last section, I mean, it's. I love these talks because we can literally go wherever we want to go and change the subject just like that, because
love it. It's
amazing, isn't it? So this was a question I was thinking as I was listening to that, because I love talking to people that have been specifically married people that have children that are in ministry, because a lot of the questions, certainly from the younger people that I get sort of coming up on the forums and the places that I'm privileged to be able to go speak at, the question that I always get asked is, how do you manage that? So, especially the newlyweds have been a year into marriage. It's amazing. It's fantastic. They met on the worship team, because that's the best place to meet your partner, meet on the worship team.
Definitely.
Clearly. And so then all of a sudden a baby comes along. So does one step down? Do they share it? Does they get babysitters and they both carry on? All those type of kind of questions that come forward. I mean, the real answer is obviously you've got to work it out in a sense for yourself and see what kind of suits what you want to do. But can you remember that time? What was the headspace? How did you work that through?
Yeah, it is challenging, as you all know, being in ministry, and at the end of the day, your family, it's so easy in ministry to you have to remember your family. Like, my kids are my first call, my first calling, and I think obviously me and my husband were both in ministry, and I remember obviously we had 7 years together before we had children. I remember when we first had Josh, obviously I was quite sick afterwards because obviously the complications and stuff, and then it was just a case of it was hard to juggle. So for a time we took a bit of a season where things were a bit easier, but we try and involve our kids as much as that we can. It's not always easy. Like, I've got 4 children now, and it's difficult juggling. Obviously, especially if you're traveling, you tend to find with worship stuff, it's a lot of weekends, isn't it? You know, it's like I've been traveling for every Sunday for like the last year. I've had 1 week off, and it's been but just we've had the grace for that. God's really give us the grace for it. And my kids, they know what we do. They are very supportive in it. There is times where you have to go, I need a time of rest and I need a time of recharge. I work for obviously a Christian youth organisation as well, which is, Youth for Christ. We're community congregational leaders in our home church, so we help with the church plant. My husband works for Michael Youssef Ministries. He's over evangelism and stuff. So it's like, and then obviously I'm worship leader, I travel and lead worship. So we are a very, very busy family. So our kids have been brought up they've only ever known us to really serve in that, and they all love God. We have our challenges. It's not easy to sometimes where I remember, when we were younger and I was leading worship in a church and my husband got held up somewhere and I'm leading worship and my kids are doing like a marathon around the church. I remember it was like a real sensitive moment. I was singing the song Closer, your love is ravished by, like singing that. And it was like a real, like God was really moving. And then my kids, which I thought I could just they'll all be good, started getting each other in headlocks, like literally running around the church. And it was just, I remember this one day and it was so difficult. And I remember there was a team of us leading worship. I was leading the song. I remember as I led this song, I remember God just said to me, you just need to take your kids home, Ruth. Like, it's great what you're doing, but your kids need you at this time. And I remember, halfway through worship, I just felt to get down. I said, looked at if Steve was leading worship, I just need to go. I need to get my kids home. And I felt it was just right at that time. And it woke me up a little bit to, there's so many times we can just keep giving out to others and giving in ministry that we can actually neglect what God has entrusted us with. And it's so important to get the balance. And there's times I don't get the balance right. There's times where you have to reassess and rejuggle. Do I need to prune back on some things to release you into other things, or do I need to be at home for a season? And I think it's just recognizing and being honest with that. Like, when I find that sometimes if you recognize little cracks, you just need to get it right. It's time to pull back, because you could be off ministering to everyone, but your whole family's suffering. And I've done that. I've been there. We used to run a community meal where we used to feed 80 people a week in the local community, and our kids were suffering. We were just, because we were doing all the pastoral care with that, and it just remembered it being just really we just need to step back from this. It was hard because we love what we did, but our kids needed us at that time. So I think it's just recognizing that, and it's not always easy. And I remember that service that I was talking about before, I got my kids, and I remember going out the door and I thought, I can't be a worship leader anymore. My kids need me. And God was really dealing with stuff in my heart, and because I love what I was doing, but I knew that I had this great responsibility for my children, And this little old dear, about 80, came running after me and said, dear. And I was like, what's the matter? And she's like, never. She said, I know it's hard now, but God has entrusted you. And, you need to learn when to pull back. But she said, never get to my age at 80 and regret not using the gift that God has put within you. And I just remember thinking, wow. So, but I think for me, what it was nothing wrong with us doing ministry, but it was getting the balance. And you have to really know when to say no. I've learned that now I say no to quite a lot of stuff, because obviously being committed, I travel every Sunday down south, I lead in up north, down south, and then I've had to learn that I can't be doing every Saturday now at conferences all the time, because I'm full capacity on a Sunday. So I'm learning to juggle that. My husband travels now with Michael Youssef, so it's just it's getting the balance, isn't it? It's not easy there. So I'm waffling again.
No. Go on.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just realised my battery's gone.
Your battery's going. Well, do you know what? We've been on nearly an hour, so we could be good to wrap up. But
I've got 9%. I'm okay.
Oh, we should be all right for 9%. But I mean, the family life and ministry is such a key role. The way I always say it, so it's God, then it's it's my missus, then it's the family, and then it's the church. And I think we've been so quick to say yes, yes, yes. And there are times to go yes, 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 and it's right to go yes, yes, yes. But there's also times to know when we use the word no, because yes and no are both incredibly important words and empowering words as ministers of what we can do. And there's been times in my life in ministry when everything within me would have cried yes, yes, yes. But the right and proper and godly response is no, no, no. And and I think
it's hard though, isn't it? It's a hard thing to learn, because especially if it's something that you're really excited about, but your family's getting left in the gutter.
It is, but this is the way that I look at it. Like if your home life isn't right, which effectively that would be equating to kind of at least going towards that, then actually what we do in public and on platform means nothing anyway.
Yeah, it's so true, because it's you've got to look after your family, haven't you? Because that's the thing. I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong, and I know I have got it wrong in the past with it's God, and then people think it's ministry. I've got to do ministry, and it's like, no, like God has entrusted you with that, and you need to, like, if you can't get that right, then it's things are just a bit skew if.
I mean, one of the ways, just before we kind of bring it to close, that I've kind of lived out through my kind of ministry is that I believe that my kids, although they're not kids now, one's at university and 21-year-old, so they're next door just there, is that they need to see a dad or a mum that's completely and totally sold out for God. So they see that I travel, and amazingly, the family's travelled with me quite a lot over the last few years anyway. But when I'm home, they know I'm home. So when I come home and the door was closed, my priority and my first point of call is the kids and the family. A great sort of partner in Kate, in as much as when I've been travelling, she's been at home with the kids, but she'd always tell them where I was. They'd always pray for Dad, and then and then through that process, and Ella's travelled with me now for many years, and only temporarily stopped, if you like, because of university. But she still will come and do some of the Christmas dates and things, and she's now a worship leader in her own right. Because of the way, because of those experiences, and she was just talking to me, like, even today, where she was going, the church I'm at, they've asked me to lead this, and it was amazing, and the Spirit of God came, and there was power, within the students, and I was just like, God, oh wow, and actually all that is her and God. Do you know what I mean? But that's been made possible by, in a sense, choices that we make as parents to kind of guide and help, and it could be so completely different. I made a choice partly because of some of the experience I had as a young kid growing up in a ministry family as well, that I never want any decision that I make to hinder them from coming closer and encountering God for themselves. I don't want them to be able to look at Dad and go, well, I ain't going to go to prayer meeting, I ain't going to go that, because look at what he did. He's never here. He's all the rest of it. And so it's really, really, the life, the family stroke ministry balance is really, really, really key in an awful lot of our kind of decisions and things that we make. I tell you what, Ruth, it's been an amazing hour, and I've been so blessed that we've finally, if not in the same room, in the same interweb cyberspace sort of setting, and maybe if we get you back on at some point in the new year, that we will do the worship lyric challenge, and maybe you will fare.
I'm going to bring my iPad. I'm going to be like that googling. But there's so much we could cover, and it's just been, like you say, the time goes so fast, doesn't it? But But yeah, it's just no, thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, I love to share my heart even more. Would love to do that, But it's been amazing.
Bless you. And
But yeah,
we're gonna have to get together in person, definitely,
yeah, let's
sooner
do
rather than
it.
later, and
Yeah, no, let's do
lead
it. I'd love that.
lead some worship together and do some ministry together. It'd be awesome.
Mhm.
So the song that's going to play us out is one that me and my daughter recorded, Jesus Son of God, which is, I believe, a Chris Tomlin. Oh, before we do that, actually, how very reminiscent of it. See, I'm used to set this marketing game, but I need to Oates King's Chamber, then
Mhm.
you will find me on most of those platforms there. And this particular program now has its own YouTube channel called Piano and Conversations, surprisingly. And on there is a growing library. There's at least now 10, 11 interviews with people like Dave Haddon, Chris Bowater, Helen Yusoff, the list, Mark Greenwood, all these names that different parts of the church and community streams and church streams would know, and actually dive in, have a look. That's the best place to go because it's
Yeah.
completely filtered as that what it is. Now, here's the thing that I'd like to be able to say. For me to be able to live stream from the Piano Room's Conversation, I need to have 100 subscribers. Now, my original Danny Oates King's Chambers YouTube page has enough subscribers, but I wanted to make sure that this content isn't lost in all the other things that I did, which is why I set up this page. So what I'm needing for everybody to do is jump over to that YouTube page, Piano Room's Conversations, King's Chambers, and like and share that page, because once I get to 100 subscribers, the chaps at YouTube say that I can start to live stream from there too. So we could go out on Facebook and YouTube at the same time and reach more people with the amazing message that we are done. And that's my little marketing for
I'm
this
moving.
Christmas.
I'm putting my charger in. Sorry, this is so
No.
unprofessional, isn't it? But this is called Keeping It Real, Worship Leader Problems. Sorry, I'm sitting on the floor. Sorry,
Hey.
this is called Keeping It Real. I'm sorry. Maybe
Do
we should
not-
just scrap this interview and start again.
Do not worry. It is like, I tell you what, we're gonna play this. We're gonna play this track, Jesus Son of God. This is myself and Ella doing a Chris Tomlin cover, I believe. And it only remains for me to say thank you so much, Ruth, for being a part of this interview today. And have a great Christmas and a wonderful New Year if we don't speak before then. And it remains for me to say to everybody else, stay well, stay blessed, and stay safe. And we will see you next week. Jesus, Son of God. Here we go. Come on, we're going to sing this song together. Jesus, Son of God. Oh, he's the Son of God. Down from heaven's throne, this earth you formed was not your home. A love like this the world had never known. A crown of thorns to mark your name, fell upon your face. A love like this the world had never known. On the altar of our praise, let there be no higher name. Jesus, Son of God, you laid down your perfect life. You are the sacrifice. Jesus, Son of God, Jesus, Son of God. Be lifted higher, be lifted higher than all you've overcome. Your name be louder than any other song. There is no power that can come against your love. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On the altar.
On the altar of our praise, let there be no higher name. Jesus, Son of God. You lay down your perfect life. You are the sacrifice. Jesus, Son of God.
Yes, you are.
You are Jesus, Son of God.
On the altar of our praise, let there be no higher name. Jesus, Son of God. You laid down your perfect life. You are the sacrifice. Jesus, Son of God. You are Jesus, Son of God. Yeah. Here we go. Be lifted high. Be lifted higher than all you've overcome. Your name be louder than any other song. There is no power that can come against your love. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. The cross was enough. Oh, on the altar of our praise, there is no higher name. It's Jesus, Son of God. You laid down your perfect life. You are the sacrifice. Jesus, Son of God. You are Jesus, Son of God. You are Jesus. Oh, you are Jesus, Son of God. You are Jesus. You are Jesus, Son of God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's the Son of God, Son of the living God. Yeah, 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 yeah. He's the Son of the living God.